Welcome to Exit the Drinking Life podcast. I am thrilled that you're here. I'm your host, Debi Talbert. I am here to teach you how to change what you're drinking without shaming, blaming, and judging yourself for your choices so that you can create a life beyond your wildest dreams. Let's get started. Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited today because I do have an exit story for you guys today. And so I have brought on Cass, and she is from the other side of the world, and she's going to be bringing in her story, and we're going to be talking about her journey, her experience, what it was like for her. And so as you're listening in, I really want you to notice and pick up upon, is there anything that's matching what's happening for you in your life? And because it was possible for Cass, it's also possible for me. And so as you're listening in, that's really what I want you guys to listen into and focus on and really let your brain open up to. So let's go ahead and get into the episode. So Cass, what I would want to know first is, how did alcohol really actually first in the beginning come into your life? Like, what actually was going on?
Okay. I don't remember any alcohol being present when I was at home as a child. Like, I know that it was with one of my stepfathers. I think he was a drinker, but I don't remember being conscious of alcohol growing up. And just for context, I didn't really have an alcohol problem I didn't have a problem until like the last 10 years or so. But I did binge drink. So my first recollection of having alcohol was when I left high school and went to university. And I was young because I turned 17 in September and we started uni in the February the year after. So I wasn't even, in Australia, we can drink at 18. I wasn't even legally allowed to drink. I had never had alcohol at home. It wasn't something I'd been exposed to. I had a fairly sheltered life in terms of drugs and alcohol. And so I remember being at uni. I lived on campus because my parents were in the farm out of Brisbane. And so I lived on campus, and so I worked full time and I studied part time and lived on campus, and it was just party, party, party. And so I was exposed to a lot of alcohol, a lot of binge drinking. I would say it wasn't every day; it was every weekend, 2, 3, sometimes 4 nights a week. So from an early age, I drank, and then I drank regularly, a lot of binge drinking, but not on my own until I was probably. Well, I don't even remember when I started drinking on my own, but I remember saying to people, people would say, well, my rule is I never drink alone. And I was like, well, if I didn't drink alone, I would never drink, because I lived alone after I was married and divorced in my 20s. And so I've lived alone a lot in my adult life. And then I've been in this house 11 years, and somewhere in that time, my drinking became a problem. And I don't remember a particular trigger. I don't remember something happening. I don't have a story that says, oh yeah, and one day this bad thing happened, and then all of a sudden I started drinking too much. I don't remember what it was. I just know that in this house, I started using alcohol as a self-soothing technique for being lonely and being stressed. And I've had relationships in that time, but I haven't had anyone live with me in that time. And so it became gradually, or somehow it felt gradual, all of a sudden I was drinking every night. And then I had to put all these rules in place around, well, I'll have 4 alcohol-free days a week, or I'll just drink 2 nights a week, or I'll only drink when I socialize. Like I've put, I'll have a glass of alcohol and then I'll have a glass of water. So I had all these rules for years trying to manage my alcohol, because I knew at some level that I had an issue. I had probably the biggest indicator was that I would continually wake up and go, oh my God, what have I done? Who is this? Where's my handbag? Where am I? All those kinds of stories, which could be a whole nother podcast, and it would be X-rated, unfortunately. But then my quit story started maybe 5.5 years ago, when I was having more health issues. I was putting on more weight. I was drinking at dangerous levels, and there was more binge drinking, and I was drinking more alone. That was the thing that really worried me, was that I wasn't drinking to be sociable. I was drinking when I was happy. I was drinking when I was sad, drinking when I was lonely. I was drinking to party. I mean, I drank for every single reason out there. And I did talk to a couple of health professionals about it, and they kind of said, oh yeah, but everyone does that. Like, it's the Australian way. It's kind of our culture. no one except my GP, my general practitioner, ever took me seriously. So I've known for a long time that I had an issue, and I used to do Feb Fast or October. You know, I do them a couple of times a year. So I have for many years done a few months here and there, and then I'd say to myself, well, that's okay because I can do it easily for a month, so I'm all right. I don't have a problem. And then probably, about 5.5 years ago, I got serious about quitting alcohol. And 2 years apart, I mean, this is a long journey. Like, it took me 5 years before I finally quit. And I remember 2 years apart, I went to an AA meeting with one of my closest friends who does AA successfully, doesn't drink, and she's one of my inspirations. But AA didn't inspire me. I didn't feel connected to the group. I didn't feel connected to the stories. I didn't feel I'm an ICF accredited coach, so to me, labeling myself as an alcoholic was absolutely the opposite of what I needed to do. Whether or not I was is another point. I refuse to engage in that debate because, and also the handing over to control. Like, this has been in my control. I'm the one who's quit drinking. I've had a lot of support and I used a lot of tools, but this is all me. And I believe in God, but you know, and that might have had a part to play, but I just felt like handing over control. Anyway, I don't want to bag AA, not at all, because a lot of people have success there and it's fantastic for them. It didn't interest me. It wasn't the thing that helped me. So then in January 2019, so just over 2 years ago, I did the first live alcohol experiment with Annie Grace with the This Naked Mind. And I was very impressed with that program. And I think I had maybe 1 or 2 days in that month where I didn't drink. But other than that, I did the experiment. And then in February 2019, I just went back to drinking again because I said, oh, see, I can do this. It's easy. I haven't got a problem. I didn't engage with the material properly. I didn't do any of my own learning or research, but I was still curious and I was still wondering, how can I have a better relationship with alcohol? Because, of course, Annie's program, that's where I met you, Debbie. Annie's program is all about our relationship with alcohol. It's not about quitting drinking. It is about learning about alcohol and treating everything as an experiment. And I loved that approach. And so I paid about 700 Australian dollars to get her online program. And I can't remember what it was called then, but it was pre The Path. And I paid and I did the first module and nothing else. I was so resistant to doing what I needed to do to quit drinking because I wanted to be normal. I loved drinking. I drank a lot. It was most of my social activities were around drinking, especially when I had the rule, I'll only drink when I'm socializing. All of a sudden, my social life was full on. Like, I had so many things planned where I could drink. I was always looking for opportunities to be able to drink normally like everybody else. But the funny thing is, now that I'm sober and I'm out with some people, they don't drink the way I drank. So I don't know what they were thinking when I was sitting there downing a bottle of wine at dinner and they're having one glass over the whole meal. Like, one of the most fascinating things now is to look at people and go, why are they even bothering? They had 2 drinks. Like, it's so weird to me. So because I was drunk, I wasn't present. I had no idea what I was doing, and I can't imagine what some people must have thought of my drinking. But anyway, that's too bad. I have to let all that go. One of the things that I did learn through the Annie Grace program is to put down those weapons of shame and regret and guilt and all those things that are self-destructive and they actually don't help. So that's part of telling my story as well, is like, I refuse to be ashamed of this. And if something I say helps someone else get to where I've gotten to, then I think that's amazing. So I dribble along, quitting drinking, stopping drinking, starting. I've had in that 5-year period, I had one time where I did 100 days without alcohol, another time where I did 103 days, and then I fell into bed with a fireman. That's a whole other story. And I fell off the wagon. And then I had last year, so in June of 2020, like in the middle of COVID, my drinking had got to the point where I was drinking a bottle of wine every single night. And I was honest with my health practitioners about how much I was drinking, which I understand is rare, but I was honest because I knew I needed help and I didn't know how to get it. I didn't want to go to AA. I didn't know what else there was. A couple of my friends have also got issues like I've had, and they had tried different strategies and it had worked for them, but I couldn't see that any of those would work for me. And I recommend, if you're curious about anything, for anyone listening, if you're curious about anything, give it a go. Like, I ended up throwing everything I had at giving up, and it worked for me. So in June, I joined The Path, and that's where I met you, Debbie, and Marilyn. And you guys, the main reason I am now sober is because of what I learned with you guys and connecting with a group. It wouldn't have happened had we not had that group of people in Australia and Thailand. And those people, 7 of us, are in a little subgroup now in the real world, and we connect with each other every fortnight. Some of us are still drinking, and most of us are not drinking at all. And so we still connect every fortnight, and that I find it so helpful to stay connected with those people. We've got a bond over something that you will never break that bond. It's solid. So what I learned in the path was I learned the science. I learned what alcohol really does. I had an education, but I was paying like $300 a month to be in that program. I didn't follow half of the stuff. Like I got to the point where I just couldn't absorb any more information. But I did a lot of journaling. I learned how to journal. I learned some process and practices that helped me unpair my connection to alcohol. The one thing that I could never understand was, I know it's addictive, right? So anyone can get addicted to alcohol because it's an addictive substance. But that didn't explain to me why I was addicted and drinking the way I was, and other people my age with my experience similar to me didn't get addicted. I've got a few friends who say, oh, I just have 2 glasses twice a week. That's my limit. I'm like, well, if it was that easy, I would do that too. But it's not. Like, well, that's not very helpful. And so what I learned in the program is that how you drink affects your brain. And so if you're drinking for any self-soothing reason, i.e. being lonely, or at the end of the day, I need a drink to calm down, or I used it as a way of stopping thinking because I'm constantly on. If you're using it for any self-soothing purpose, that's when your brain says, oh, well, we need this to survive. So let's have it. Let's get addicted to it. And it changes your brain chemistry because of the way you use it. And I learned that through the program, and it was like, oh, I get it. It's not me. This is, I caused it obviously with drinking to self-soothe and whatever. But if I'd never done that, I might have continued on drinking normally, which I think would have been a travesty, because now I understand what alcohol does to the body. There's no way I'll ever put any alcohol in my body again. There's absolutely no way. So I kept going through the program. So June I started. I had 70 days under my belt, but it was 70 hard days. I was fighting every day. I had to think about it a lot. I had to work really hard. It wasn't easy. You saw me week after week turn up on our coaching calls, and I was struggling. It was a really, really hard. I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't having a good time. And then in September, it was my birthday, and I thought, you know what, 70 days, I'm okay. I can moderate. And the problem kept coming back to, I wanted to be normal, whatever that looked like. I thought I could have a few drinks and I'd be like everybody else. And because I wanted to drink, because everyone else drinks, it's our social thing. It's so much fun. I had all these beliefs that were incorrect for me in the end. So I had my birthday dinner, and I went to dinner with just my cousin and my 2 best friends. And I had maybe 3 or 4 drinks. It wasn't very much. And I thought, see, I can do this. I had a really good time. I didn't embarrass myself. I was home in bed early. Like, it was all great. And then the next night was Saturday night, and I drank a whole bottle of wine. And I just thought, this is not going to work. And so then I stopped again. There was one point in that period, I can't remember exactly when it was. It must have been around then, where I'd had 30 days and I did the actual alcohol experiment, which, as you know, you have to have 30 days of not drinking before you do the experiment. And then you do the experiment and you drink with no external stimulation. So no TV, no phone, no nothing. So I turned my phone on flight mode and I drank. I bought 2 bottles of wine. I bought one for the experiment and one for the next night, because I thought I might want some more. And of course, I drank both bottles of wine the night I did the experiment, which is a lot of alcohol for anyone. And I've only once watched all the movies that I recorded that night. I have twice watched the first couple, but I never watched the end one again after the first time I saw it. And one day I'll be brave enough to watch it again, because I think it's very educational. But the next day I was so sick. I just felt so sick from drinking 2 bottles of wine. And I've had other times where I've drank more than that. It wasn't the quantity. It was the fact that I watched some of the videos, and it was devastating to watch me going, I hardly even think I'm tipsy. And my eyes were rolling around in my head. And the content of what I was talking about, I slowed right down, but I was not making sense. And I was saying things that were demonstrating my lack of self-esteem and the things that I was doing in my life that weren't in line with my values. And it was just so telling. And so I think that was in October. I can't remember exactly when I did that experiment, but I remember thinking, oh, I'm never going to drink again after this. Like, it was just so eye-opening and shocking. And I loved that about the Annie Grace program, that there was never any pressure to quit. In fact, in the beginning of the program, they tell you not to quit. It's like, learn what your relationship with alcohol is like. What are the triggers? What's it doing for you? What are the good things? What are the bad things? I really liked that, because I was like, yeah, I'm going to work it all out, and then I'll be able to drink normally. And I was still, right, I think until December the 21st, I was still trying to work out how could I moderate, even though I had seen in the past so many people who were now sober and saying, like all of the coaches and then a lot of the participants saying, I'm never going to drink again. And I don't even have to talk about the future. I just know how good it feels. And I was like, I just don't believe that. Like, until I was there, I couldn't believe that. And so I dribbled on through again, drinking right up until Christmas time. And on the 21st of December, I was at my mum's for Christmas, and I had a bit of an episode, which I really don't want to focus on that, but I drank too much one night. And then the next morning I just went, yeah, but I'm actually done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And so I had withdrawals, not to the extent that I needed hospitalization or anything like that, but I was very sick for a couple of days. Was getting migraines only in the last 2 years. I was getting migraines, and I had a migraine that night and that day. So it was a hangover on steroids. I really, really felt unwell. I think that helped me in those first few days, because I felt so miserable. It was pretty easy. I wasn't going to drink. But I also committed to my family, because I think my family were really worried about my drinking. I committed to them that I wouldn't drink. And I went to my father's house like 2 days after that and stayed with him for about a week. And it was probably the hardest week. I didn't drink. And my dad drank a couple of nights, but he was really conscious of supporting me. He hasn't had a drink this year to support me. Like, he hasn't got an issue, obviously, it's just me, but so that he can share with me. Like, I've just had the most amazing support, actually. And my mum's not a drinker anyway. But I didn't drink, and I haven't had a drink since then. But then what happened, I kept doing the work. I stayed in the path until February, when I felt like I'd gotten everything I needed. And, you know, we're in Australia. There weren't many coaching time zones that sort of supported us. So I felt like I was not getting the benefit out of it, but I'd already gotten the benefit out of it. Like, it's the best program. I absolutely recommend it for people who need it. But I also did hypnotherapy. So I've thrown everything at this. I was doing the PATH program, which is the number one thing that helped me get off. That coaching that you and Marilyn did with us in that group was live. It was every 2 weeks, or every week, I think, at one point. We got to talk about what was going on with us. We got live coaching. It was a small group. That was like amazing for my sobriety. It just really helped me, because we talked about real things going on. I never felt judged. We could show up and say, I drank again, or I did this, or I did that, and here's what I'm feeling. And we debunked all the myths around alcohol. And there are so many that I believed anyway that are just not true. And so I did hypnotherapy, and I will never know exactly how that worked, but I'm convinced that it was a big part of my success. I think it helped me make it easy, because my big thing is I want everything to be easy. And people are always telling me, well, Cass, sometimes it's not going to be easy. You're going to want to drink again. I'm like, why are you telling me that? That's not how I want my brain works. So I've changed my mindset. I don't want to drink. I'm not attracted to it. I can be around people drinking. I can smell it. I can see it. I don't want it. I'm also, I used alcohol-free drinks that look like wine, and I use them successfully. I don't have them as much anymore because I don't need them, but I will still take them to a party, because then it looks like I'm having something interesting rather than just water. But yeah, so I used alcohol-free drinks. I also saw my GP every fortnight. So I went and saw my doctor every 2 weeks. I told her what I was doing. I had her supervision. I didn't need any medication to help me, but I needed that stabilizing effect or something. And she's been so supportive. I tell everyone that I'm not drinking though now. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks. I went through a phase where I was like, I've got 20 reasons I don't drink, and they're all true. And so depending on how I felt, so in the early days, I was really a bit pious and like a bit up myself, and like saying, well, do you know that there's a link between alcohol and cancer? Ha ha ha, smarty pants. You know, just awful shit like that doesn't help, and it doesn't make people want to talk to me about not drinking, you know. So I went through that phase where I was like better than everyone else, and now I realize I'm not, especially my dearest friends who still drink. I was them, you know, and so I don't talk about it much to them unless they ask me, but I am very proud of myself. Now, my best friend still drinks daily, and I see her all the time. And in the beginning, it was hard for me, and now it's just not. I'm there to support her, and if and when she wants to change her relationship with alcohol, she knows she can come to me. But in the meantime, my job is just to be her friend as per usual. The boundaries have changed a little bit though. Like I don't see her quite as often because I used to use it as an excuse to drink because we both drank way too much. Um, and so I've also said when we go to parties, I said, when I'm ready to go, I'm going to go. I'm not hanging around. And so you can stay and get an Uber or you can come with me. And usually she comes with me happily. And so it's good for her as well because then she gets home at a reasonable time and she's safe and I feel better knowing she's home safe. So yeah, I'm sort of going around in circles now. But I think probably the main thing was that I finally realized I can't moderate. And once I realized that and stopped wanting to be normal, because what's normal now, I'm in a circle of people. I know a lot of people who are not drinkers, and that's my new normal. That is good. And honestly, Debbie, I couldn't imagine how good it would be. I didn't realize how much drinking took away from me. It took away my self-esteem and my confidence. And I thought that was just because I was getting older and I wasn't as quick and I'd put on too much weight and it was all those things. As I've taken away the alcohol, my confidence has come back and I've lost 10 kilos, but I haven't lost a lot of weight yet. I still have a way to go with that. It's not because of the weight loss. It's because my brain is functioning better. I'm smarter, I'm faster, I'm funnier, I am more in control, I have more confidence. And this is only 4.5 months. I can't wait to see what happens in a year. You know, like it's just getting better and better. And I didn't realize alcohol was doing that to me. And I wouldn't have believed you if you told me. I only know that now looking back in hindsight and looking at my journals and I've never had depression. I'm lucky. I am a natural optimist. But I look at my journal over the last year during COVID, I was unemployed for the first time in my life for 5 months. And that's when my drinking got really bad. Like that was when I was drinking a bottle of wine and I ended up in hospital with an unrelated problem. I had an ovarious cyst burst and I had like 1/2 liter of blood in my abdomen. It was a really horrendous, scary time. And I remember saying to the doctors in the emergency, oh, I'm drinking a bottle of wine a night. And one of the guys said to me, oh, don't worry, everyone is. Like, I'm sorry, that's not okay. I think that's part of the problem is the medical people I've seen, apart from my GP, they tell you, well, as long as, even my rheumatologist, when I said, oh, is it okay to drink and take methotrexate when I was on it? I'm not on that anymore. And he said, as long as you're not taking the pills with wine, it's fine. I'm like, that was years ago. And now I look back and think, wow, it's so ingrained everywhere. It's not socially acceptable to tell you what alcohol is actually doing to you. So, but I don't think that works. I think, as we spoke beforehand, telling someone that smoking or drinking is bad for you, it's not enough of a motivation. It wasn't for me. I tried probably 73,000 times before I quit smoking. And that was the 2nd of May, 2009. And even when I've been really drunk, I've never had a cigarette to my knowledge. I've never wanted to. Once I turned it off. So I have got a strong personality. So when I do decide something, then I usually follow through on it, but not with drinking. It took me 5 years of trying before I finally quit. And so now I know I've got more peace. I've got freedom. I never have to think, how many drinks can I have? Can I drive? How many calories is it? What am I having? What am I planning? It just never enters my head. I don't have to worry about it. I've had a few times where I've been had a dream. I've had 2 dreams about alcohol. The first one, I had a dream that I drank and I woke up in the morning and I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, I've ruined it. And then I went, oh no, I haven't. And incidentally, that's another thing about the day one. I'll come back to that. And then the second dream I had only a couple of weeks ago, and I had a dream that I was offered alcohol and I said everyone was drinking this new French champagne and French champagne was my favorite thing in the world. I used to say, I only want to earn enough money that I can buy Verve. That was my saying all the time. Like now it's like, what am I going to buy now? Whatever. And everyone was drinking this French champagne. And even in my dream, I said, oh, I'm sure that's really nice, but I don't drink. And I woke up and I went, yes, even my dream self doesn't want to drink.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go a little bit into because you've been I wanted to let you get the whole thing out.
Yes,
But what I notice that's different and what I love about inside the coaching that I do on my own, as well as the coaching I do in the path, and why I like Annie's stuff is because it's the taking the focus off of
Yes.
The action of trying to stop and then putting the focus on to like what you uncovered is I am soothing myself with this, right?
Yeah.
So I think the magic, and it does feel magical, and I can even like I'm getting goosebumps over here just listening to your story, and it's only because I too know how magical it feels when you actually get to that point. But I don't want people to think it's like a magic pill, right? It was 5 years of you insisting that I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
I am going to find what is going to work for me, Cass, right? And that's where I think the magic actually happened, right? Is you put more of you in your journey, right? Like you started to realize, okay, this AA, I don't want to label myself. It's not, I'm not, and but you're also open, like, I'm not saying this is a wrong program. I'm saying this was the wrong program for me.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And so I think, and then you talk about your journals. And so
Yes.
you literally did the work part. And the work part, yes, there are videos and there
Yes.
is training and there
Yes.
is knowledge about the science behind the alcohol.
Yes. Which is
But
cool.
the work part is getting to know Cass,
It
is
was
getting
all
you in
me.
the story.
Absolutely. Understanding why I was drinking, what I thought I was getting out of it, and unpacking that to see, was it true? Because part of a lot of the story I told myself was it wasn't true. And in fact, even at the time when I said, well, it makes me more outgoing and more sociable and I'm funnier, and it's not true. I mean, some of that is true, but mostly I feel better now. I'm funnier now. I don't have to wake up in the morning and go, did I offend anyone? Did I say something I didn't mean to? Because people talk about alcohol being a truth elixir. It is not. It, to a certain extent, it is, because initially it removes some inhibitions, right? It allows us to be a little more flirty or whatever. I don't want to go around taking my clothes off in front of strangers, but that's what I did sometimes. Like, that is not a truth elixir. That is throwing it to the wind and being someone completely different that alcohol is running. That is actually not me. I did the I'm going to tell you this story. I did the Brene Brown training at the beginning of, I think it was the beginning of 2020, with a bunch of women, all coaches, amazing, amazing women. I knew most of them very, very well. We did it up at the Sunshine Coast with an amazing coach, Ali, who facilitated us in the 2-day weekend of the Brene Brown training, which was all about leadership and integrity and, you know, all the things that I'm so tuned into. And I love Brene. She herself has been sober for many, many, many years from everything. But
Yeah.
I didn't know about her when I first found her. It was something afterwards, and then I felt like I had another connection with her. But we did this 2-day training, and on the night we all sat up and drank heaps of wine. Now, in hindsight, I don't know if everyone else was as drunk as me, but I don't remember going to bed. And in the morning, I came out to have breakfast, and I felt safe in this place with these amazing women. And I came out and I sat at breakfast, and everyone's going, "Oh my god, you are so effing funny." And I'm like, oh, and they're like, "Oh my God, your stories last night, they were so good." And I was sitting there thinking, holy shit, what did I say? I didn't know what the topic was. I don't know what stories I was telling, but I had the whole room in stitches, regaling them with stories, potentially about some of my conquests. I don't know. I have no idea what it was. But then they were saying, "Oh, that funny story about you and such and such." And I'm like, well, I don't know what story that was. To this day, I don't know what I said. But they were all like going on about, I was the funniest person I'd ever sat with and whatever. I have no idea what I said. Now, I've since seen a lot of those sober and at events where I haven't drunk, and beforehand. They still think I'm as hilarious. They don't even know if I'm drinking or not drinking. Unless I tell people, they generally don't know whether or not I'm drinking, because I do have a big personality. But now I don't have to ever wake up and go, what story did I tell? And what was it all true? Even like, how do I know? Because I wasn't there. I wasn't running it. So those days I don't miss at all, because that's excruciating, that feeling of, what did I say? I'm glad I entertained you, but did I really? Like, did I entertain you at the expense of somebody else? Potentially. Like, I don't know. I'm not a mean person, and I'm a happy drunk, but I know I've done things when I'm drunk that I'm not proud of. And so it's good to clear all that and let that go. Yeah, for sure. But I have done the work. You're right, Debbie. I've done a lot. I've thrown everything out. When I was unemployed, I joined this program and the Path program, and it cost me a lot of money, but I knew it was my priority. I knew I had to do that and do the work. Yeah.
Right. And that's where I think the key is
Yeah.
that you a person can't simply watch the video, right? It's more, you need to bring yourself into it, right? You need to take the time. And what I find with people and what I notice is, and as long as they're resisting that particular part where there are, there's worksheets, there's questions to answer, like the journaling prompts, when you're resisting those, that is how you continually stay stuck.
Absolutely.
Because I believe, and what I've seen with clients and working with people, is that is when your brain slows down enough to
Yeah.
catch up with the truth of what's actually happening.
It's so true. Though the journaling activities helped me uncover things I didn't know I knew. And it is work. Like, you can't be passive in this. It does. There's no magic pill. You can't just read. I've read Annie Grace's book a number of times. Now, I know a lot of people read the book and then were sober. That wasn't my story. I've read it at least 3 times. I've listened to it. I've listened to the podcast. I've done the work. I've engaged with it. As I say, it took me a long time. It took me probably from June until December, every day, working every weekend, committing and showing up and doing everything before I finally quit. And even then, when I quit, it was hard. Then it got easy because I continued doing the work. I continued when I was sober. The thing I love, one of the many things I love about the program is you never go back to day one. I did. I chose to go to day one at December 21 because I knew it was different. But from June, I counted that as day one, whether I drank, whether I got drunk, whether I drank for a couple of weeks. It was still, my day one was in June when I joined, because you don't have to restart. It's an experiment. You are encouraged not to go back to the beginning, because you don't undo all of those. Like, I don't undo those 70 days of sobriety just because I then had a blowout or a blowout for a month. It still counts. And I think that's one thing. It's very destructive for our minds if we think we have to go back to day one every time we fall off the wagon, because it's like, oh, well, I drank now, I drank last night, I might as well drink tonight. Whereas if you can keep your counter going, it's like, oh, well, I just had one little blip. Here's what I learned from it. Here's why I drank. Here's how I feel about it. And you get honest. When I look back at some of my journals, it's like, oh, I was in so much pain. And I thought alcohol was calming that pain, because in the moment it was, but not for long. Eventually, it's not making you feel better. It actually makes you feel worse. But you don't know that until you're past it, because at the time, in the moment, you feel like, I felt like alcohol was making me funny. It was helping me stay calm. It was the only way I could turn off my brain. It's the only way. I'm always so smart and so fast and going at a million miles an hour. And it's the only way. Well, that's just not true. I'm going faster now and I'm smarter now than I ever was. And I turn off all the time. By 5:30, I'm absolutely exhausted because I've put everything I've got into my job. And then I can just switch off and enjoy my night. I can watch TV or do a jigsaw or do anything I like. I don't work into the night now, whereas I used to, because I never felt like I was good enough. I never felt like I was doing enough. I wasn't smart enough. Whereas now I get so much. I always work faster than most people I know, but now I get more done in a day than anyone. Like, it's incredible to
Yeah.
live.
Yeah, and so I think but I also, like, what I hear that you're doing too is you are noticing what's going, like, you allowed yourself to become your own detective, right? And so
Yeah,
here, like, even though I'm a coach at This Naked Mind and in the path, like the podcast, I use exit simply because I'm using my flight attendant stuff, right? I'm your
yes,
closest exit, right? And so the exit part is you're examining, you're exploring, you're experimenting. And
yeah,
then the X is you're Xing out, like all those old stories you used to tell yourself, those old things
yes,
that you used to believe. So you're
yeah,
Xing those out.
I
But
definitely am.
while you're doing it, you're igniting your curiosity, and
Yes,
then you are also trusting yourself to figure it out. And so
yes,
this, and so how I see it as, if we can look at this, like, because personally, my opinion is there is no wagon. Like you keep saying, fall off the wagon. Like, in my opinion, there isn't a wagon. We're not riding on anything. It's
I
this,
love.
really this, I call it this upward growth of success. So
Yeah.
it's really like, how I see it is along the straight line towards up, the upward part of it, you have the examine, explore, experiment part. And
Yeah.
then the circle part is like X out, ignite, trust. And so
Yeah.
it's like this, you have this path that's going up, but yet you're circling around, kind of like it's a circle motion and it's a spiral towards success as
Yeah.
opposed to this straight line thing. And then also I believe what happens to us, especially when you pause and you do the work of the
Yes.
journaling,
Yes.
is that you're slowing down enough and you are literally an entirely different person by the time you've come back around the circle. So
Absolutely.
so you have the examine, explore, experiment all along this straight up and down line, but the circling part is Xing out the old things you're telling yourself and then igniting your curiosity. And so each time you go around that circle
Yes,
and really allow yourself to explore that, you are actually literally a different person.
I am. I've
So,
rewired those thoughts. Like my brain is definitely different. I've rewired
yeah.
so that I no longer believe I have to drink to have fun. I've only had one person in all of my months. One person said to me when I left a party early, "Oh, you were much funnier when you were drunk. I loved all your stories." And initially, I was hurt by that, but then I realized she was drunk, and I know if I spoke to her sober about that, it's not how she feels. It was just that she was drunk, and we all say stupid things when we're drunk. But that's one person out of hundreds I've seen. And most people love that I'm not drinking because I'm more caring, I'm more attentive. I'm a curious person, so I'm much more interested in other people when I'm sober. Whereas when I was drinking, I was too busy trying to be the center of attention and being funny or pretend I was sober when I wasn't, like underestimate how many drinks I'd had and underplay it and whatever, and I could carry a bit actually. And I often didn't have hangovers, or I would pretend I didn't have a hangover just so that I could say, oh, yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm not drinking too much. The amount of times I've dragged myself through a day when I could barely keep my eyes open just to prove to myself that it wasn't a problem. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's totally, totally crazy. And so I just have one last question for you.
Yes,
So, if you could go back
yes.
and talk to 5 years ago, Cass, when she was really
Oh,
at the start of her
yes,
thing, because this is where a lot of people are that are listening to us, right? So,
yes.
what would be the one thing you could tell her to help her know that believe at least that this is possible for her, what you're experiencing now?
Oh, that's such a hard one because I'm not someone who generally has regrets. And I do wish I had stopped drinking sooner. There is no safe level of alcohol, and if I could go back 5 years ago, I would tell myself that my life is going to be better without alcohol, and you can believe that. Now, I wouldn't have believed it. I know that, but I hope that someone
Yeah.
listening will actually believe it because it's true, and there's so many people saying it. It's not. And look, I think it's great that it's so trendy. There are a lot of people talking about not drinking, a lot of women particularly. I think it's fantastic that it's trendy because if it just helps one person, it's amazing. But yeah, that would be it. That it really is better. It's not a joke. I don't have. I don't. This is not hard now. I don't have to think about it ever. I don't want it. I have no desire for alcohol, but it's worth doing the work. I couldn't change it until I did the work, and that involves being curious and doing the experiments and really slowing down, like you say, and trusting myself and being curious and going, no judgment, no shame, no blame, just what is going on here? What is the truth of this drinking? Why am I drinking? What am I really getting out of it? And yeah, I am so much happier on every single level. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what it's going to be like sober dating. That's the only thing I haven't tried properly yet. But I have
Yeah. So you're gonna, but
and I,
what are you gonna be doing? You're gonna be experimenting, right?
yeah,
Exactly. You're experimenting with the sober dating. So,
I
and I
can't.
really, but I think also if we can all realize all we actually did was train our brain that alcohol was our answer. And so
Yeah,
now all we're
untrained.
doing is retraining our brain
Yeah,
that it's not the answer.
so true. Yes.
And yeah. And thank you so much for being on here. I loved your whole story. I can't wait to share it.
Thank
with the world.
you.
And it was so awesome catching up with you and seeing you again. And
You
I really cannot wait for your year story. We'll have to do it again and have a year story, and then we can hear about your sober dating.
Yes, I will. I'll be careful. I won't. It won't be X-rated.
Yeah, we'll have to keep it not X-rated when it's over dating. Thank you so much for being here today.
And thank you, Debbie, for being part of my journey. Like I honestly would not be here without you and without Marilyn. You guys absolutely have saved my life. It's I can't understate it. Thank you. I can't overstate it. I mean, thank you.
Yeah, oh, it's a pleasure. I mean, that's what I swore when I figured it out. I would help at least one other person figure it out. It's been
Yeah.
way more people than one person now, but I'm just like, that was
Yeah.
really what I wanted to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want you to know that I have been exactly where you are right now, stuck, feeling trapped in this drinking life, worried I would never be able to find my way out. I am here to tell you it is 100% possible. If I can do this, you can do this. If you want to take what you've been learning here on the podcast to the next level, head over to jumpseatcoaching.com because I have created a variety of resources for you over there.